Years ago, the workplace was often a dangerous place to be. But that was before employers and the government got together to make the workplace safer.
The government agency in charge of workplace safety is the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA.
Your employer spends a lot of time and effort to comply with OSHA regulations, making the jobs here as safe as possible. But your employer can't do it alone.
Now that you're a part of this company, a lot of the responsibility for safety is on your shoulders. Whether you work in an industrial factory,
or at an assembly plant,
or wherever you work, you need to know how to work safely and how to keep your co-workers safe too.
let's start with the OSHA poster. All employers are required to put up a poster like this one. Now, you should read it to learn about your safety and health rights.
Today, we're going to take you on a tour to point out some of the things that you should know about staying safe on the job. Along the way, you'll also hear some valuable advice from safety experts and employees who know how to play it safe.
The three main topics we're going to look at are the work environment,
Safe use of equipment,
and what to do in case of emergency. Now, not all of what you're going to see today will apply to your job. You'll get more specific safety information later from your trainer or supervisor.
Let's get started by looking at the work environment. When we look at the work environment, a good place to start is with housekeeping. Clean and well-maintained work areas are safe areas. They also look more professional and make a statement about the company's concern about accident prevention. Keep storage areas free from materials and obstructions that could cause tripping, fire, explosion, or even attract pests. Work areas, passageways, and stairs should be kept free of clutter. Collect waste and dispose of it in proper containers. Waste containers should have lids. Glass and other sharp objects must be properly disposed of. Through the science of ergonomics, your workstation and the equipment you use are adjustable to fit your body. This helps prevent injuries caused by poor workflow design, injuries that can be long-term and affect you even after you retire. The parts of your body that are most subject to stress and strain include your eyes, ears, hands, wrists, arms, shoulders, back, and legs. Try to avoid long stretches of repetitive twisting, forceful, or flexing motions while you work. Be sure to take breaks and use good posture. Repetitive motion injuries can happen if you repeat the same action over and over again. If you feel pain, report it to your supervisor. And if you come up with a better way to perform a job that avoids repetitive motion, tell your supervisor. Continuous use of vibrating tools and equipment can also cause serious injury. To minimize your risk, don't use any more force than you need to. Use cushioning or padding.
The best way to do a job is the most ergonomic way to do a job, and it works out for both the employer and the employee. We looked at hand tools, trying to find tools that fit the operator. And we also looked at adjustable height tables, trying to bring the work to the operator and make it as adjustable as possible. Also done things with packaging. We've got the packaging at the appropriate level for the operator. As a result of the ergonomic improvements we made, we've seen a reduction in worker injuries and worker complaints.
Another important thing to keep in mind about the workplace is proper lifting. Be careful, especially if lifting is a part of your job. Get help with large loads, whether it's from other people or by using material handling equipment. Find out the weight limits for manual lifting for your job. If you're going to lift, bend at the knees, letting your legs do the work, not your back. Keep the load as close to your body as possible. You might want to split larger loads into smaller ones. In many occupations, falls are a leading cause of injury and death. If you're going to be working at heights, check with your supervisor and use the fall protection equipment provided. Survey the work site. Make sure there's a way to safely walk on all work surfaces. Falls can also occur when you use ladders and scaffolds, and they happen for a variety of reasons, including failure to inspect before using, wearing wet, greasy, or oily shoes, and using poorly maintained ladders and scaffolds. Be sure to choose the right ladder for the job. You can help prevent injury or even death by inspecting ladders frequently, using them properly, and keeping them in good shape. When you place a ladder, make sure it has a good solid base and watch out for any electrical hazards. Here's the right way to climb a ladder. Make sure your shoes are clean, face the ladder, use both hands, only one person at a time, hoist tools up only after you reach the top, and don't lean out to do the work. Only use scaffolds that have been properly assembled using the right materials. Sometimes fall protection must be used as well. Personal protective equipment, or PPE, protects workers from hazards that are caused by work processes, the environment, radiation, chemicals, or mechanical irritants. PPE must be kept clean and in excellent condition. There are many types of PPE. Eye protection guards you against several types of hazards. Eye protection includes eye goggles, safety glasses, welding helmets, and face shields. All of these must fit over your prescription lenses if you wear them. Keep in mind that face shields alone don't offer enough protection. Always wear safety glasses or goggles under a face shield. Sometimes workers don't wear eye protection even when it's provided. Unfortunately, that's why many eye injuries occur that don't have to. And don't think that regular prescription eyeglasses will protect your eyes.
The individual was a setup tech, and what they do as a part of their job is purge the press. And when they're purging the press, it's a process of making sure that the plastic is forced out of the press. And he had safety glasses on and was looking into the barrel of the press to ensure that it was clean. And at that point in time it wasn't, and the molten plastic belched and sprayed his face and head with molten plastic. The individual is blind in one eye, and had he not been wearing his safety glasses, as you can see, he would have been blind in the other eye too, because this was his good eye. The right eye was his good eye, and this prevented him from losing that eye. Had he not been wearing his safety glasses, he would be totally blind today.
Foot hazards include compression, puncture, slipping, wetness, chemicals, extreme heat, and cold. Foot protection includes safety shoes and boots and add-on guards that cover your own shoes. Hands are potentially threatened by mechanical, environmental, and irritating chemical hazards. Gloves are the most common type of hand protection. Use the right glove for the job because they are job specific. Good fit is a must too. To protect your head, wear your hard hat where required. Know how to wear it properly and how to adjust it. Check your hard hat often for damage. They don't last forever. Request a replacement when necessary. Respirators are another form of PPE that protect against hazards in the air. It's very important to get a good fit and wear the right type of respirator for the hazards involved. High levels of noise in the workplace puts many workers at risk for temporary or permanent hearing loss. High frequency or high-pitched noise is the most damaging. Protect your hearing by wearing hearing protection devices such as earplugs and ear muffs. Use devices provided by your employer.
It's important to wear hearing protection because even though you might not think it's loud or you may get used to it, it still can do damage to your ears. The reason I wear earplugs is a personal reason because my grandfather worked for many years and they never wore ear protection then. And it was, you know, trucks and coming and going just as loud as it is in our plant. When he got to be in his 80s or so, or even earlier, it's like, what? And he had to wear a hearing aid, and I just don't want to take that chance.
Each year in the U.S., many workplace pedestrians are injured in accidents involving forklifts.
Forklift operators have to play it safe, but so do you whenever you're around one.
Use pedestrian walkways whenever they're available. Look both ways before stepping into an aisle, around a corner, or through a doorway. Be aware of blind spots. Use the convex mirrors to see if a forklift is coming. Listen for warnings. Forklift operators will sound the horn to alert you. When a forklift approaches, make sure the operator sees you. Never walk, work beneath, or ride on raised pallets or forks. Operators are trained to yield the right of way and not to speed or make sudden turns. To promote safe operation of forklifts, only those who are completely trained are allowed to operate them.
Well, when you're driving a forklift, you should be beeping your horn, sounding it to make the people aware that you are in that area coming along. When I drive a forklift, I don't always see the pedestrian walking, so you have to be aware of that person driving the forklift also.
In areas where hazardous materials, chemicals, equipment, or processes are present, certain types of hazard warning signs need to be posted. Danger signs, which are predominantly red, warn about immediate hazards. Caution signs, predominantly yellow, warn about potential hazards and unsafe practices. Exit signs, in red letters against a white background, must mark all exits and exit routes in the workplace. Safety instruction signs are predominantly green and white and provide general instructions and suggestions relating to safety measures. Annual summaries of occupational injuries and illnesses that have occurred in the workplace must be posted where employees can easily see and read it, usually where other notices are posted. Annual summaries must be posted for at least 30 days.
Now, the equipment that you use depends on the kind of work you do. But no matter what equipment you use, from a stapler to a 1,000-ton press, and everything in between, there's a right way and a wrong way to operate and maintain that equipment.
You should only use the tools and equipment that you are authorized to use. This includes office equipment. Even something that seems harmless, like opening a copier to clear a paper jam, can cause an injury or damage the equipment if you don't know the correct procedures. One of the most common safety hazards in the office occurs when file drawers are left open. Make sure file drawers are closed when no one's around. Tools must be used properly. Don't take shortcuts by using tools in ways they were not intended. Cutting tools must be sharp. Dull ones can be dangerous. Power tools must be able to be turned on and off quickly with a single finger motion. When you're using a tool, direct it away from other workers. Damaged tools are unsafe. Regularly inspect and maintain all tools. Beware of loose handles and worn cords or hoses. Let your supervisor know if tools are in poor condition. Unsafe tools must be either repaired or replaced. Some tools, machinery, and equipment can trap your hands or clothing and pull you into the machine. Some equipment can send sparks or fragments flying. Machine guards, screens, and shields protect against injuries. All exposed moving parts must be guarded. Guards must not be removed just because you think they're in the way. If guards are defective or missing, the equipment must be taken out of service. Electricity can cause shock, electrocution, fires, and explosions. To safely handle electricity, it is important to understand how it works, which materials conduct electricity, and which resist it. You should also know the hazards electricity presents and how to avoid them. Electrical problems will be dealt with by qualified persons who have had specialized training to work on or near exposed energized parts. Insulation and circuit protective devices like fuses and circuit breakers are there to protect you. Extension cords are meant for temporary use only. Don't use cords that have missing third prongs because they're not grounded. And don't strain extension cords in any way. Doing so causes weak points. Respect lockout-tagout devices. They protect you and your co-workers from accidental exposure to energized equipment or circuits.
Now let's talk a little bit more about lockout-tagout. It's the process of using locks and tags to block the flow of energy from a power source so equipment won't accidentally release energy or start up. Lockout-tagout is used when equipment or machinery is being serviced or maintained.
The flow of energy is blocked by locking a power source in the off position. The device also warns others not to restore energy to that power source. In some cases, both a lockout device and tag are used. Lockout-tagout affects everyone who comes in contact with energy-powered machinery and equipment, although only certain workers are qualified to apply lockout devices and tags. Lockout-tagout devices must not be bypassed or ignored. Locks and tags can only be removed by an authorized person, the person who put them there.
We had a situation with lockout-tagout. There was an employee who bypassed our rules. He opened a guard on the machinery without locking it out, reached his hand into there. There was a shaft that rotates about 80 RPM, and it grabbed his coat and pulled his arm in all the way up to his shoulder and crushed his arm severely. So it's very important that you use lockout-tagout. You may not think a shaft can injure you, but it really can.
Welding and hot work areas need to be properly ventilated to prevent the accumulation of harmful fumes and gases. If excessive fumes develop, leave the area immediately. Use flame-resistant clothing and PPE. Welding helmets are a must. Respirators may be needed if the ventilation is not adequate. Don't wear clothing that could catch sparks, such as cuffs on pant legs or open pockets. A fire watcher is a designated person who watches for unsafe conditions while you weld and for a period of time after you finish. Keep combustible materials away from the work site. If you pass by or work near a welding area, don't look directly at the bright arc or even at the bright reflections of the arc. In addition to the intense visible light, welding also emits ultraviolet and infrared radiation that can harm unprotected eyes and skin.
Your company has a specific set of rules that covers vehicle safety.
Before you drive, you should be properly trained and authorized to drive that vehicle. Make sure the vehicle's brakes, lights, and warning devices are working properly, and that you and any passengers are wearing seat belts. If you drive a company vehicle as part of your job, follow your company's policies and all traffic laws that apply. When you work with hazardous chemicals, you have a right to know what they are, how to protect yourself, and how to respond to emergency situations. The way to learn this is through hazard communication. First is the Material Safety Data Sheet, or MSDS. The MSDS tells about a chemical's physical properties and how to safely handle it, including the necessary personal protective gear, what first aid treatment to give when someone is exposed, and how to respond to accidents like spills and fires. Other forms of hazard communication include labels, which are affixed to chemical containers to identify the chemicals and the hazard warnings. In addition, employers can use signs and posters to inform workers about potential hazards in certain areas of the workplace. Training is another form of hazard communication. By law, workers encountering chemical hazards in the workplace must receive hazard communication training.
No matter how much safety planning you and your employer do, emergencies can happen in the workplace. Every employee needs to know what to do in case of fire, severe storms, injuries, chemical releases, and other emergencies.
Know how to contact 911 operators. If 911's not available, you should know where to find the emergency phone numbers for hospitals, doctors, and ambulances. OSHA requires employers to keep records of employee injuries. If you're injured on the job, even if it's just a minor injury, report it to your supervisor immediately. Every workplace should have at least one person on site with a valid first aid certificate who can analyze situations and treat certain serious injuries. If a worker needs first aid, call for help. Know where first aid supplies are located in your workplace, and be sure to let your employer know when supplies are low. Know where eye wash and shower stations are, and how to use them in case you get chemicals in your eyes or on your skin. Some work sites have automatic external defibrillators, life-saving devices that can restore normal heart rhythm. Know who is trained to use one and who is trained in CPR. You should also know the signs of frostbite, hypothermia, heat exhaustion, and heat stroke, and what to do if they occur. Minimize contact with blood-borne pathogens by following the exposure control plan in place at your work site. Blood-borne pathogens found in human body fluids can lead to disease and even death. Follow universal precautions. Treat all blood and certain body fluids as if they were known to be infectious. Wash your hands often. Use the proper gloves and personal protective equipment. Always follow proper procedures for decontamination and disposal of blood and other potentially infectious materials and items that can come in contact with them. You should also know and recognize the biohazard symbol.
How to handle chemical spills and releases is outlined in a regulation called Hazardous Waste Operations and Emergency Response, or HAZWOPER.